and there is a degree of accuracy to this. He was a stickler for discipline and procedure, and saw the opportunity to wear the German military uniform both at sea and ashore as an honour not to be sullied by inappropriate or lax behaviour. He demanded, and achieved, a high degree of proficiency in every aspect of a U-boat's operation, both from his men and from himself. However, these hardline demands only paint a part of the picture of this complex man. He was widely considered quiet, reserved, even shy by comparison to most of his peers. But he also possessed a biting, dry wit that he could deploy at any time, and was capable of wry observation of events, even if he was to become the butt of whatever joke was to be made. His crews held him in high esteem, and displayed a loyal affection for Kretschmer even once captured and separated individually for interrogation. That kind of devotion can rarely be achieved by a tyrannical approach to command. Kretschmer, in turn, was immensely loyal to his crew and remained genuinely concerned for their welfare before and after capture. By contrast, Gunther Prien, perhaps the most famous U-boat officer in history and a friend and flotilla mate of Kretschmer, was highly successful in action but apparently generated little genuine affection from his crew. He was reputedly a strict disciplinarian who rarely allowed humanity to interfere with the running of his ship, and his crew apparently despised him for it. Prien was a man who harboured much bitterness, carried with him from a difficult early life, and although amongst fellow officers he could be raucously genial, his reputation with subordinates was considerably less flattering. This book is based on a combination of official records, personal anecdotes, snippets of interviews, and secondary material, though only those that can be verified as fact. There are a surprising number of legends that have built up around many of the Wehrmacht's major figures, often repeated as true, but frequently no more than apocryphal tales. I make no attempt to write a book of recreated conversations, a popular method of attempting to novelize history and perhaps make it as approachable as a work of fiction. Unless what was said between people is known via the people themselves or eyewitnesses, then it would be disingenuous to attempt to recreate personal interactions for the sake of getting across the truths of any particular event. For example, there is no verbatim report at any of Dönitz's meetings with Kretschmer, therefore I make no attempt to recreate their exchanges. There has been a scattering of books about Otto Kretschmer, including Terence Robertson's excellent and groundbreaking biography of 1955. Of course, the majority of the subjects of that book were still alive and in good health at that time, which allows the recounting of conversational history with a high degree of accuracy. The same is not true in 2017, unfortunately. Nonetheless, it is surprising how many inaccuracies can creep into a story and become repeated as reliable fact, losing a fragment of truth with each subsequent retelling. This can sometimes be caused by relying on the supposedly infallible memories of protagonists, though it is to be hoped almost never for the sake of enhancing an already fascinating tale. On occasion, however, it can also be the result of a man's desire to have some fun with the topic, telling yarns of the sea to impressionable listeners, all with a twinkle of merriment in the eye. The genuinely hospitable and accommodating Irish top would sometimes do this, as did Heinrich Timm when he told of putting men ashore in New Zealand to milk cows. These men exercised their sense of humour, and it subsequently became written elsewhere as fact. Therefore, rather than run the risk of mutating an interesting story, the text that follows sticks to what is verifiable or rightly judged to be accurate. A mainstay of such a story is the U-boat's war diary, Kriegstagebuch, or KTB. The KTB was a written record of a U-boat's operational life, broken down into patrols and dockyard time. They were often kept in handwriting aboard the U-boat at sea during the early stages of the war and typed once ashore. The KTB recorded significant events, weather conditions, distance travelled, and so forth. Some are written like personal diaries, full of tension and excitement. Others are more matter-of-fact and detached. They also included torpedo shooting reports, Schussmeldung, filled out by the torpedo officer, a duty of the first watch officer, track charts and radio logs, Funkkladen.